Like the one
We took a single-day tour from Eilat, Israel, to Cairo, Egypt. We crossed the Sinai, drove under the Suez Canal, visited the River Nile, the Great Pyramids of Giza, and the Sphinx. Rode camels, took amazing pictures, explored inside of one of the pyramids, visited a perfume shop, the Papyrus Museum, and the Great Cairo Museum. We shopped in a famous outdoor bazaar, ate great food, and went back to Israel all in a single day. Now, I'm going to show you how we did it, and the good, the bad, and the ugly of everything on this tour from Eilat, Israel to Cairo. Stay tuned. Okay, while on a trip to Israel, my wife and I knew since we were so close to Egypt, we just had to go see the Great Pyramids of Giza. It was on our bucket list. And I found out that trying to find a direct flight from Tel Aviv to Cairo just seemed to be impossible. So the next best thing was to take a tour down to Eilat that sits right at the southern tip of Israel, on the Red Sea, right between Egypt and Jordan. Now real quick, right down below, I will leave links to the tour companies we used, as well as the review I wrote on TripAdvisor in the description below. Now, a domestic flight from Tel Aviv to Eilat is incredibly cheap. One way was about €30 per person. So even if you just wanted to enjoy the resort town of Eilat, it's only a 45-minute flight. And in Eilat is where you can find a bunch of tours to both Jordan and Egypt. We booked our Cairo trip from Eilat through Fun Time Tours. The reason we chose Fun Time was every tour that I researched all did the exact same thing. So finding the least expensive company seemed to be the best way to go. So the first thing that's going to happen is you'll be picked up from your hotel room at around 9 p.m. and then brought to the Egyptian border crossing at Taba. There, you'll be escorted through the process, and you must pay for a visa to enter Egypt, plus a letter of guarantee by the tour company stating that you will be under their supervision through the entire trip. This is a separate fee from the tour company. It is something the Egyptian government does, and it's outside of the tour company's hands. Now, once you've gone through that, you begin your overnight drive across the Sinai Peninsula and on your way into Cairo. We had 2 drivers and a guide in the van with us. It turned out my wife and I were the only 2 on the tour that night, so we got to know our guide and our drivers pretty well. However, the first part of the journey is mostly sleeping, or trying to anyway. You do have a couple of places where you will be able to stop and use the restroom, and have an early traditional Egyptian breakfast. Now, I do recommend the Turkish coffee. There's nothing like it in the world. The best coffee you'll ever have, no doubt. As the sun begins to rise, you should be close to the Suez Canal. By this point, the hard part is over. You're actually able to see Egypt for the first time, but still, at this point, there's not much to see. It's mostly desert. Now, there's a couple of checkpoints you'll have to go through when you're approaching the Suez. And as cool as it seems that you're going underneath the Suez Canal, it's really mostly just a tunnel. But then before you know it, you're about to enter the amazing city of Cairo. And now your adventure begins. We picked up an additional local guide in Cairo and began our official tour. We first stopped to see the most famous river in the world, the Nile. Now our guides were here for us. There was no rush, and they let us take as many pictures and video as we wanted. Let me stress, the Great Pyramids are much larger than I ever expected them to be. To give you a little perspective, don't just look at this picture I'm showing you. Look closer. Do you see how tiny that person is right there? These things are enormous. I estimated it would take about 30 to 45 minutes to walk around the Great Pyramid alone at a regular pace. Now, here are some other facts about the pyramids of Giza. There are around 138 Egyptian pyramids throughout the country. Some of them are huge. The largest pyramid, Khufu, is also known as the Great Pyramid of Giza. When it was first built, it was about 480 foot tall and was the tallest man-made structure for over 3,800 years, and is known as one of the 7 wonders of the world. It is estimated that this pyramid was made from 2.3 million blocks of rock, weighing 5.9 million tons. It's amazing. Being there, I had to touch those gigantic stones and imagine how in the world did these things get built. There's a lot of ideas, but you know what? I'm going to leave it as a mystery. That's for another video.
اخش هو مش عايز اخش برضه ايه
Yeah. Hang on to the rope, my dear. The Sphinx is a mystical creature with the head of a human body and the body of a lion. The Sphinx in Giza is the world's largest and is located southeast of the pyramids. For years, Egyptologists and archaeologists have thought the Great Sphinx of Giza is about 4,500 years old, dating back to around 2500 BC. However, some recent studies have suggested the Sphinx was built as long as 7000 BC, or 9,000 years ago. After our time at the pyramids, we went to lunch. Now, you're going to go to an all-you-can-eat buffet, which comes with many traditional Egyptian foods and desserts. Now, they'll also bring you out barbecued meats like chicken and lamb, which were amazing. And the food was great. Now, you are going to have to purchase your own drinks for some reason. It just seems to be a thing over there. You would think the drinks would be included, but they're not. Now, after lunch, they took us to a perfume shop where they have all of the scents and oils that are pressed directly from the flowers and their origins, where you can buy them for a very cheap price. Now, all of the big perfume companies like your Chanel's and Estee Lauders, Hugo Bosses, etc., they get their stuff from the Middle East and then they mix them into their own concoction, put a premium price on them, and then sell you a small bottle for $100. Well, there you can get samples of many different scents and then buy it directly from them, and you know you're getting the pure stuff. I would recommend Ramesses. It's named after the pharaoh, and it's incredible. Next, we attended the Papyrus Museum, where they show you how they take the pure papyrus and how they press them into paper just like they did in the ancient days. There's some amazing art in this place, and some of it is even glow in the dark, where it shows you one image in the light and another image in the dark. Pretty cool stuff. And right next door, there's another place where you can buy jewelry and many other pieces of art if you're so inclined. And you can also haggle and negotiate for prices as well. So try to get yourself the best deal. The last place we went to was the Cairo Museum. Officially called the Grand Egyptian Museum, it's dubbed as an attraction not to be missed. I can agree. I can't list how many incredible treasures this museum has. Now, if you're a history buff like me, you could spend the whole day there. And by the way, there is a separate fee if you wish to see the mummies of the pharaohs. Now, it's not much, but our guide did pay for it. Now, I knew we would tip him out in the end and kind of pay him back for all of his assistance and his great work for us. Now, they were very strict about not allowing photos to be taken of the mummies in the mummy room. But I took one anyway, because I'm a rebel like that. The other highlights was seeing all the gold they found in the tomb of King Tutankhamun, also known as King Tut, the boy king. There is more gold than you would likely see in your entire life in any one place. Look, I only had 2 wishes while I was in this museum. 1, I wish I had more time, and 2, air conditioning. Now, there's probably an air conditioner in there, but it didn't really feel like it. Now, they are in the process of building a brand new Grand Egyptian Museum that is very close to the pyramids of Giza and looks incredible. Now, it was said to be completed by mid-2017, but 2 years later, it's still not close to being complete. They are currently pushing for a grand opening in mid-2020, but we'll see. Now, the very last stop right before we left was the Khan elkhalili bazaar. It's an outdoor shopping district. Here you can buy anything from spices to magnets for your fridge. And everything is negotiable, and everybody wants to make a deal with you. Now, we ended up buying some really cool Egyptian statues and some shot glasses and other souvenirs to remember our trip. Our local guide was going to leave us and go back home, So we gave him a good tip and thanked him for his time and hospitality, and for him paying for our extra ticket to the museum. Now, these tips really seem to be what these guides rely on. So he was very thankful. Now, after we dropped him off, our two drivers and our other guide, we all started heading back. Now, thankfully, the drive back wasn't as long as the drive in. I think they were allowed to take a shorter route going back. So that way, we actually arrived back at the Taba border crossing around midnight. We tipped our drivers, took a photo with them, and let them to be recognized by the company for their good work and in our reviews. And we headed back to Israel. And once we got back in, took a taxi back to the hotel room, and then got some rest. Now let's quickly get to the good, the bad, and the ugly of our tour from Eilat, Israel to Cairo, Egypt. Now, let's get the ugly out of the way. It's the drive. It's an overnight drive from the Taba border crossing to Cairo, where you arrive in the morning. The drive is a long and windy road through the Sinai Peninsula that is filled with terrible roads, and some of them are even dirt roads, not to mention several military and police checkpoints along the way. The ride was rather uncomfortable, but it wasn't completely unbearable. And now for the bad. Now, in the beginning of the tour company is supposed to have someone come to your hotel, pick you up, and bring you to the border. There they will have a representative there to escort you through the process so you can get your visa, whatever paperwork, pay the fees at the border, and then introduce you to your drivers on the other side. They did not pick us up. Now, we had someone at the front desk contact the company, and they stated they did bring somebody over there, but then they left because we were not there, even though we were. So there was a big bit of confusion there. And they informed us that we needed to take a taxi from our hotel to the Taba border, which cost us extra time and extra money, which was non-reimbursable. I was very upset, but after we got through and the tour started, everything was much better. Now, the other part that was bad is something that's a little bit more expected. Now, we were there in late July of 2019. It's summer, it's Egypt, and it's hot. Now, plus, when you're out there at the pyramids, there is no shade. Nothing's going to protect you from the sun, so you need to make sure that you dress appropriately, you wear a hat, sunscreen, and whatever else you might need while you're there. Otherwise, you may end up looking like a cooked lobster. And now for the good. It's everything else. It's the food, the sights, the museum, the history, the experience. The good makes everything else disappear. And your dollar goes pretty far in Egypt, so you can make pretty good deals when you shop in most places. Now, the prices are usually not set, so you can also barter for a better deal. Now, most everywhere will take US currency and euros and just about every other currency too. Most companies will take credit cards as well. So you need not worry about anything. Just enjoy. You're on vacation and you're here to enjoy. So let this be a trip of a lifetime. Now overall, you're kind of hot, you're tired, but you forget about all that stuff. Cairo is about the memories that you make in one of the most famous tourist destinations on earth. Now, if you visit Cairo from Israel like we did, or if you plan to fly into Egypt and stay a while, Cairo will remain with you forever. I hope you consider a similar trip. Also, check out some of the other videos. keep on traveling and make life an adventure. Like and subscribe, and thanks again. Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.